Restaurant Unstoppable. What the most successful restaurateurs know that you don't. I cannot wait to dive into your story, but let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Man, honestly, I don't know. Like, I always tell myself, shit'll buff out.
Shit'll buff out.
I always feel like I'm wading through it, and it's not negative, but like, you always feel like everything's coming at you, and that's what I always tell myself, man. You're going to get to the other side, and it's actually a beautiful mess.
Yeah.
I love it, and that's what I do every day. Like, I'm a problem solver. That's how I look at it.
It might not be the most visually appealing quote, but I love what you're dropping on us, man. It's great stuff. Great way to get this thing started. And where does it make sense to start telling your story? Because I know that you don't have a traditional path into the restaurant industry. You never worked in restaurants before opening your own cafe, did you?
No. Man, I always tell people that I'm a maker. I create stuff.
Okay.
And that's what I love to do. I love to create experiences.
Okay.
I was in 2008 stock market crash. I had an epic job where I traveled everywhere and sold software, and I got to do all that fun stuff. And then from then on, I always said, let's make my own pathway to live out my life.
So what were you doing? Like, what did you go to school for? Just to get super aerial real quick. Who was Chad Grubbs before all this?
Yeah, before all this, I went to school for theology and psychology.
Okay.
So human interactions always interested me. Helping people has always interested me.
Dude, I love that. And there's definitely been a correlation between people I've been interviewing in their interest in human behavior and psychology. I think that at the end of the day, this is all about people, understanding people and giving people what they want and need.
For
right?
sure.
And if you know what people want and need, if you understand how the human mind works, it makes that so much easier. So I guess I don't want to get too far ahead, but actually finish what you were saying. Continue to paint that picture of what you doing.
So from there, I was a pastor for a little while. I shifted and kind of went on my own journey. And then I got into a little bit of the commercial world, like I told you. And in 2008.
What do you mean by you shifted and went on your own journey? That's you intrigued me. What kind of journey are we talking about?
Well, it just went from knowing initially how I thought I wanted to help people was just within the church, was very singular focused. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I wanted to be broader in my engagement. And so I kind of, I guess when you're younger.
Broader in what way?
I went out into what they call secular world, and realized that you can help people in so many different ways and
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is a secular world? What is that?
Yeah.
I've heard, I've heard it, but I'm not entirely familiar with that.
Yeah,
that term.
Me either.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's, if you're within, and I'm not claiming to be within the Christian community anymore or not, but they dichotomize these worlds essentially of the Christian world and the secular world.
Okay.
And so you have to be living within one of those two.
So you
worlds.
broaden your horizon.
Yeah, for sure.
Opened your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so went out and I worked for Dell for a little bit within the software, and then shifted over to another company that was called BibleSoft, which kind of let me do two of the things that I knew really well. And they decided to let a bunch of people go during 2008, much similar to now, right? With the economy crashing. But then I just knew at any point in any time, no matter how much you devoted yourself to a particular craft, if you didn't own the ship, you can get booted from the ship. And so I just started doing small business and just started doing the things that I loved and wanted to pursue. And the first thing was photography, which actually led me to my wife.
Okay.
And because we did a lot of photography within the wedding community.
Okay.
She was a wedding planner. And from then, we just always knew that we wanted to hang out as much as possible. So we started shooting photography a lot. My kiddo, I realized how much that I didn't get to see them on the weekends, and they started playing sports. So I shifted there to Bent on Creativity, which is fabricating furniture. It gave me a lot more freedom. And my wife, Jen, started doing the plant thing. And from there, like, we threw these, like, little mini events we called, where people would just come in and we would kind of have, like, food available, planting available, dirty them hands.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, so it's one of the things I've identified as something that you guys are really good at. Like, you're more of an event company than you are a restaurant. You put it's experience forward, food second.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, no.
Not to say that your food like comes second, because it's great, but you can tell that there's a lot of intentionality around what you're doing with your space with people. It's not just a space for people to sit so you can feed them. It's more than that. Yeah,
for sure. And I think, kind of like we were chatting a little bit about earlier, is like, I tend to distinguish our space from a restaurant, because I feel like that's how people perceptually think of a restaurant. You go in, you sit down, you dine, and you leave. And so there's this kind of formula to engagement. Whereas a cafe or a coffee shop, I think we tend to broaden our food realm where most coffee shops don't. They tend to think that as like a second or third grab and go aspect. Like, that's one thing we really focused on, was the food aspect of, because I feel like I'm a food person and I love food every single day.
Dude, I was looking at your menu and you got me intrigued. Like, I'm definitely going to be grabbing some grub.
How dare you?
And that pun was intended.
Yeah.